Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders.
Welcome back, everyone. It's been a minute, but Ryan and I, we're together today.
Finally back in studio together, recording, not separately, not doing a recap. We've got some new dual info coming at you.
It'll be good. Excited about it.
What do we got today, Joe?
So I brought up to you a couple days ago. It's December 9th.
Yep.
So we're coming up on the holiday season. And I know from experience that the holiday season can get tough on me as an individual, depending on what you have going on in your life, or even those around you might have a tough experience with staying motivated, staying positive during the holidays. Sometimes it's hard for people. So I was curious about your thoughts on managing differently or approaching things differently during the holiday season.
I'm glad you had brought that up too, because it's something I thought about, but I didn't really think about it in the way you framed your question. So it was nice to have that thrown out. But like you said, motivation gets extremely low around this time. I mean, you're off for Thanksgiving, you're back to work for a couple of weeks, and then you're off for Christmas, maybe for a whole week, or you're off again for New Year's. So there's a lot of time off already worked into the work schedule. So you've got that you're kind of anticipating and excited for. And everybody knows whenever you have a vacation coming right before, I get a bad case of the fuckets. They set in a day or two before. Sometimes I can combat it if I'm busy enough. It can help ward it, keep it at bay. But it kicks in bad. And so I feel when you have a lot of time off stacked like that, it's just a constant state of that low motivation, trying to...
You're on vacation, you're on holiday beforehand, and then you have a day or two to recover after you get back and get back in the swing of things. And sometimes you don't even have that day or two to recover before you're right back off.
Right. And even the few weeks in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you're still anticipating and excited for the holidays because you know you have that time off coming up away from work, and it's probably busier than how most places are. Busy right now. There are different industries that kind of shudder at this point of the year, but other ones pick up drastically at this time of the year, and it's like retail and everything. Some of those people have to work the holidays, so that's an even different type of motivation killer. Right. And you're not excited about the holidays, now you're dreading them because now you've got time away from your family that you might not be used to, or you're not ready for. You want to be able to spend that time with your family, and now you know you're going to have to work. So right. There's a few different factors in there that can affect the motivation this time of year.
The financial burdens that it can put on families, because I mean, especially when you're slow or we have slower years, or like this year people are talking about a recession or
inflation and everything. The cost of everything is killer right now.
So people could be there could be a lack of motivation simply because of the financial burden. Like you're overwhelmed,
right,
burned out from that, and seeing that, or going to see family and things like that. Maybe you're not seeing family for whatever reason, and that could be a burden on you, and that it all takes a toll.
I did some research, it had took quite a bit of time to research for this one. I wanted to see if there had been any studies or anything done on this. I guess we can call it the Christmas effect or the holiday effect. So the American Psychological Association, they had done a survey, found that 38% of people said that their stress increased during the holiday season, and that can lead to physical illness, depression, anxiety, and possibly substance misuse. The people that were surveyed gave their reasons, and it included a lack of time, financial pressure, like you mentioned, gift giving, which also ties into the financial pressure, and then family gatherings. So, family gatherings and work gatherings were also another one that I noticed in the research. I'll see if I can find that stat in a minute, but work gatherings also contributed to employees' uh, motivation also. Some people were excited about them, others dreaded those ones. And maybe they dreaded the Christmas party at work because it might have taken away from time that they got to spend at home, might be scheduled at the same time that they have something home related going on, so it now takes away from that, or they don't like that kind of interaction. Some people like to keep their work and their life separate, so they don't want to even attend that kind of a party, but now they're required to. So that increases the stress, and there's a lot more factors than I even realized that go into the holiday season.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about Christmas parties. Like, I like that. It shows that the employer respects you and appreciates you, and it's their way of giving back. So I've always liked the holiday parties and get excited to go mingle with people outside of the work setting a little bit also.
And that can be exciting. It can also be, yeah, I mean, for people that are introverts or
Right.
just they like to be home. When I'm at work, I love being around all the people that I work with. When I leave work, there's a lot of times where I just want to be home.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around the people that I see every day because I have enough of them. So I get it. I don't have anything else to talk to you about.
Right.
We have all these conversations at work. And there's, obviously, you can force that. You can make it work. You can go and still have fun. But it can definitely be stressful. And I see, it's like one of the things, I mean, if we're going into things that some places do or that seem to help, at our shop, we've done Christmas bonuses. We do review time around Christmas time, and we do raises and everything all at the same time of the year, which I guess could be a stressful thing if you are not anticipating a good review. But usually it's been a good motivator to keep people going because
You could be stressed about the amount of the raise, though, and maybe
is it enough for me for the next year? And I've had that
does your
thought before,
company
too.
just give a consistent raise every year, so you're dreading the fact that, oh, I'm only going to get a 2 or 3% cost of living raise? Like, that's what a lot of places do. It's just a straight cost of living raise, so it's 3%, which doesn't account for the inflation this year or the year before or the year before. Anyways, but yeah, that's all they get is consistent. So you sit there and you're like, well, it doesn't matter what I do anyways. I'm just going to get this. So
Right.
whatever. And so that adds another level of stress too, because you're just dreading it.
Which for our company, the way it's been done in the past has been, you get a raise based on how much effort you put into the company, how much profit you bring back in, how much you are actually valued and worth in the company. And they kind of make a big list of the hierarchy and like, should this person be paid more than this person? Do they put in the same amount of effort? Does one put in more effort than the other? And then they'll kind of balance the scale that way. So, I mean, there's been years where I've gotten significant raises, and there's been years that haven't been so significant. And it all depended on where I lined up in that hierarchy of what I was doing and for the job that I was in currently.
Right.
So that's always been a good motivator, and then we do Christmas bonuses on top of that.
Yep.
So the anticipation of knowing, hey, we're going to get a Christmas bonus, we're going to get a raise, it's always been a good way to stay motivated and keep working hard throughout that holiday season. Now, there's been several times where people have anticipated the bonuses, the raises and everything, and for whatever reason we were busy, the management was out, they couldn't fit it in for whatever reason, and it got pushed into January timeframe. And I've seen a giant decrease in morale towards the holiday season, that last 2 weeks of the year, just because people are like, oh, well, I guess we're not doing any of that. So planning some of that stuff during the holiday season, I do feel can be beneficial, but I also feel like if you set that standard, you need to maintain a standard,
Right.
maintain a time frame that it will happen for that benefit, for the motivational benefit of the people. Knowing that if you push it past a certain point, you're going to see a giant decrease in morale because it happens. And it is very obvious, and everybody starts talking about it. Are we even doing raises this year? Are we even doing bonuses this year? Maybe we're not getting reviews. And that talk spreads quick. And when nobody has an answer, nobody has anything, it's really, really obvious to see the decrease in motivation.
So what in the case that, let's say, raises are tied to profits, and maybe this year is just a tougher year. Maybe your company lost some money this year. At what point do you think a company needs to communicate that to the staff, to the team?
That happened last year. Actually, for us, we had a year that was tight. We didn't have a lot of work. The after effects of COVID really slowed things down for a little bit, and we've had some recovery time. This year's been better, but they were just kind of, we always usually have a year-end meeting. We'll have like a Christmas, they'll do a lunch for Christmas, they'll cater in some food, and we'll have a big meeting, and they'll talk about the profits for the year, how we've done, what is upcoming in the next year, and whatever. And last year they said, look, this year was tight. This year we went backwards. We didn't make as many profits as we were planned on. We lost some jobs that we weren't supposed to lose. Just got outbid by somebody else, and it wasn't a great year. So just so you guys are aware, if you have questions about your raises, your reviews, your bonuses, whatever, this is why. Like, it has nothing to do with your individual performance. It's just, this is what we can financially do. And it's understandable.
When was that?
That was last year.
December, November. Do you remember when about? I'm trying to figure out a timeline here. Like, how long before the holiday season,
that was
if
December.
if
That
circumstance,
was that
okay,
holiday season.
in your opinion, how long before the holiday season, if they truly want to try to avoid a downturn in motivation with employees, how long before the holiday season should a employer notify their team that this is what's going on?
The sooner the better. I can say it's never really bothered me because there's that open and honest, like, you're still going to get something, but it's not going to be what you might have gotten in years past, and that's okay because I know not to expect. Like, a bonus is a bonus. I'm not going to be upset if you give me a $5 bonus. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to have questions, but I'm not going to be upset because it's $5 that I wasn't expecting. So I'm still going to be happy about that, grateful for it, whatever. I do feel like November would probably be a good time frame. Beginning of November, halfway through November, just give people a couple weeks to plan ahead. Like, hey, you're not going to see as much of a bonus. If you can do that,
I do agree with you, as early as possible. I mean, as soon as you realize that this is what's going on, I think you should figure out a game plan to notify the team.
yes.
So it's their life. You are
devil's advocate in that from a business standpoint, and I haven't run a business, I haven't operated a business, but how far away from the end of the year can you actually know all your finances throughout the end of the year?
I'm sure
Especially if we
by the
don't
end of Q3, you probably have a generally good idea of where you're at for the
most
year,
idea,
and
but we don't.
you're gonna know where you need to finish in Q4 to finish profitable on the year. So
Yes, but you could have a bad Q4, or some of our jobs, like we'll start building something and dates will get pushed back. So we cannot invoice it and get paid for it by the end of the year. It ends up getting rolled over into the
to
next
your
year.
point, though, you generally have a very good idea middle to end of November. You
Mm-hmm.
know where your December is going to be. And yes, there are some changes in December, but I don't see a whole lot of changes in December just because of the holiday season.
And
There's
I guess
not a whole lot of shit going on anywhere. So there's not a lot of things changing.
and that that must depend
I'm sure it's all
on
industry
on
dependent.
the industry,
I'm
because
sure.
we quote jobs, we do a lot of work over the holidays because most factories shut down
Yeah.
for a week or two during the
Yep.
holiday season. So
I
sometimes
guess that, yeah, that is true. I didn't even think
we
that.
quote a work in November and the end of November to move 3 work cells in like 10 days, and they wanted it done over the holiday season. Well, if we can knock that out, we can get paid out that whole chunk.
Right.
But
And
it's,
not
can we
everybody's
swing that?
Q3s, Q4s line up with Christmas and
Right.
all
We
that either.
don't.
It's all dependent, but
We don't have a constant sale of things going out the door. It's when can we get this machine done by? When did it get quoted by? We have a 20 to 24, 25 week build time from the time we get a quote in till the time it's out the door. Sometimes that gets pushed out more, sometimes that's shorter. So we can we have some machines right now that we're trying to finalize that should have been done months ago, but we weren't able to get parts. The customer could not get us parts. So now it's sitting on our floor. We can't invoice it because we can't run parts. We can't ship it to the customer. So now we could possibly have up to $1.5 million on our floor at a time where we cannot invoice it in the end of the year because we don't have.
if that comes in between November and December, though, do you really think that that's going to affect anything at that point? Or had your.
I don't know. I don't understand the financial side of any of it. I know some of it can be if you anticipate the money coming in at a certain point in time in the first quarter, you can apply it to the profits or whatever. You can change all that and work the books. But I don't know how all that actually affects things. So I don't know how much of an impact they can actually know. But
And
yes, to bring it back to what we were talking, I think as soon as you know, you should communicate.
yeah,
If you don't know till the end of the year, you don't know, and that's.
I would say probably
I would like to think
November-ish,
you should know
you're going to have a good idea
where
of
we are, yeah.
where you're going to fall for the year. And regardless, even if you're not sure how December is going to look, you still have to make that decision at some point so you can start getting everything ready. And because these things take time, like,
Mhm.
especially with a bigger company, it's all going to be in place ahead of time. So,
Right.
I would say probably middle of November at the very least. You should be letting people know, hey, this is where we're at, what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Just to give people a chance to plan for their holiday season and for their entire next year.
Mhm.
Because these are people's lives that we're playing with. All right, moving on from timeline now for notifying the team. Got a couple more stats we can talk about. Here's one from CNBC. December is the most stressful time of year for 42% of workers, according to a survey by the insurance company MetLife. The need to balance work responsibilities with family life and colleagues taking holidays before the end of the year were given as the main causes. So other employees' time off added to people's stress as well. Another factor I hadn't really considered. It's normally something, as a supervisor, I only consider the stress it causes me of having to maneuver team members around
Mhm.
and, okay, make sure all of this stuff is covered and running, or all the production I need to be getting done is getting done. So I've never considered that adds to their stress as well of having to move to different machines or run different departments or whatever. Didn't really think about that, but
Yeah, because if you think the the mental load on you already, thinking about all the stresses you have and the holidays coming up, and now you want to be, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but some people are going to want to just be in one state as repeatable of a process as possible, so they don't have to mentally think about anything else. Let me do my job for the next couple weeks to get through this time, and then move on. But yeah, you shake up the
right.
shake everything up on them and say, hey, you're gonna do something else for a couple weeks. It's like, now on top of everything else I got going on.
And dreading it for a couple of weeks beforehand because you know these people are taking the time off because I'm sure they're talking about it and the vacations that they're taking and the family they get to or have to go see.
Have you
So
had to up overtime during the holidays because of that too? Have people work more hours just to fill in? Add stress that way?
generally, there's a limit given to how many people you can allow off at
Right.
any given time. And you are typically staffed appropriately to be able to accommodate for that percentage decrease. So, like, it's generally 10 to 20%, I would say, of your workforce you're allowed to let off. So, if you got 20 people, you can have 2 people off.
Mm-hmm.
So, you generally have that much flexibility in your workforce to allow 2 people to be off without it affecting anything. So, yeah, it's not really a factor unless you are generally understaffed,
Mm-hmm.
or just in general, if you're understaffed, then that's going to start where it causes problems because now you're already having problems running everything you need to anyways. You're stretching your workforce thin as it is. Typically in that kind of a situation, you're already on overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra people out isn't doing you any worse or better. It's just you're already fucked. So it's just continuing the situation. I haven't seen where the extra time off because like you just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see that on production floor when you have
I don't know
teams
how
and everything like that.
it,
Smaller shops, I mean, it makes things tight.
yeah,
I mean,
depending on how much they allow off too, but generally it's the same thing. You only have so many people you can allow out at any one time.
yeah. Well, in the instance of like our shop, when we have work that gets quoted and some things get stretched longer, sometimes you like I could put in for time off right now for next year,
Mm-hmm.
and they could approve it because we have nothing on the books. But in the next 3-4 months, that month could be completely a big shit show. So we might have a ton of work that comes in, and now I already have vacation. I'm already taking my vacation. So now other people are going to have to fill in my workload for that time off because of whatever. And that's happened during the holiday season. And like I said, we have a lot of the factories and facilities call in and say, hey, we want this work done when we have off time. Can you guys do it? So we've had to pick up more hours typically around the holiday season.
Yeah, it probably is industry specific as
And
well.
I can see that adding more stress because I've been in that position where, hey, we need this work done. Can you work more hours? Can you work on the holidays? Can you work Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and spend time with your family when you can? And I can see that's stressful because, yeah, if you want to make plans, especially if you go out of town or go visit family for the holidays and you have to travel and everything, you can't swing it. But I've been in the shoes of having the holidays be such a financial burden that I've always been willing to take the hours because I've always had the mindset of you have to do what you got to do. So if I need to make finances work, I need to meet a financial goal over the holiday season. You offer me extra work, I'm going to take it. And that's kind of just rolling with the punches, shooting from the hip for it, and do what you have to do. But I can see, yeah, you let more people off. Now you have less of a team. Now you have more work to do. and it's more of a burden on people.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you shift the work that they're used to doing, the mind numbing task that they can do, to something that now they actually have to pay attention to on top of all the shit that they got going on. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Can definitely add to the stress and
Right.
to the burden of people.
Yeah. To answer your question, I haven't seen it lead directly to overtime. Typically, it's already in place, but yeah, doesn't allow for it.
Regardless,
System
I
is
still
set up in
see-
place to keep it from that happening.
I still see the shift of job or shift
Oh,
of
absolutely.
what you're used to doing.
Absolutely.
adding
Extra.
to that burden. And yeah, if you're shifting people around as a supervisor, as a team leader, or whatever, just because you have to make ends meet, you're just thinking about getting the job done, not how does this make this person feel
Right.
because of the time of the year it is.
Right.
How would you approach that then if you shifted people and then you noticed that things weren't getting done? How would you approach that? No, keeping the holiday season in mind, or would you kind of forget about that when you went to approach it?
I mean, that's all of these things, factors that affect productivity during the Christmas season can be affected by doing something about it. We've done white elephants with our team before. Everybody, or Secret Santas. Secret Santa was another one that a lot of people liked, and it was a little bit easier in the shop just because people can come and go and move around freely, and it leaves you opportunities to drop stuff off anonymously. And so those are just a couple different ways to keep the atmosphere light and keep positive attitudes going around, right? And giving is always good for your body, your soul, everything. It's a good way to feel good and be happy to give to other people. So that it's an opportunity for that, but it gets people's minds off of their job so much. Gives them something other to think about while they're at their job. If you could do Secret Santa, they can spend their whole days trying to figure out what to do for the person they drew. Then on top of that, they get to spend time thinking about what gift to get that person. And on top of all of that, maybe these people don't know each other that well. Maybe now this requires one person to go reach out a little more often to learn something about another team member. And who knows what happens from there. So there's all kinds of awesome opportunities that come from doing some type of gift giving around the holidays.
Which can be fun and can be a positive thing for obviously morale and team building. But like you went back to, one of the earlier stats was gift giving as part of the added stress to the season.
You make it optional. You don't require it. You don't want anybody that doesn't want to do it to have to do it because they know it's going to add stress to them. You let it be the ones that want to do it.
Maybe the stressful time of the year during the holidays is not when people want to try to, like, now I have to, on top of everything else I have going on.
But you make it optional. The people that want to get involved can, and it's going to brighten their day, and the people that don't have to. But you watch how many extra people get involved just because they start to see other people having fun with it. The next year, more people get involved. The year after that, more people get involved. Just because they see the fun you have with it and realize, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's another $10, $15, whatever. Yeah, they start to see the good and the fun in it as well. So it can start to change the culture for you also.
For sure. No, I like that.
But yeah, you do not require that. This is something I would do throughout the year, but just kind of like goal-based incentives. Hey, if we hit this, I'll do this. Hey, if we hit this, I'll get this, and do pizza parties and stuff like that. And then it's a way to include everybody without putting any burden on them. So just, hey, it's been a rough week. I'm going to get you guys pizza, or yeah, it's something stupid, but especially coming from just you at the supervisor level, it means a lot to those guys. And yeah, it is it can get expensive, 40, 50, $60. Sometimes you can get the company to pay for it, but other times you got to suck it up and just pay for that. And
Right.
that's a big financial burden for you. So, and they realize that and understand that, and they appreciate it that much more knowing you did it for them and not the company. So, um, yeah, little food parties I'd like to do also. I don't like to do potlucks. People can get fishy about potlucks. I preferred to just go buy food. Shit, I'd buy Taco Bell breakfast. My team used to love Taco Bell breakfast. So that was one of the incentives I'd like to do. All right, you guys do this and I'll go get you breakfast sometime this week and head out 20 minutes before break time. Go pick them all up breakfast and have it there waiting for them when they got off on break. So,
Yeah, I like that. I would say another thing, as a leader, you should already be checking in on your team, seeing how people are doing. Personally, I think that needs to maybe increase a little bit. Maybe check in with people. Like, how are you doing? Are things going all right? I mean, people don't need to share their financial situation with you or any of their personal details, but maybe check in a little bit more. Like, hey, are things going all right? You feeling okay? Got any plans for the holidays? Just to know that you're actually paying attention. And people might want to share some stuff. And hey, I'm really stressed about the holidays. And sometimes just that acknowledging the stress or hearing that your team is stressed can allow you to approach it a little bit differently.
right.
Or know that you need to take some burden off your team or do an incentive like that. Bring them in something just to raise morale a bit, but maybe check in with your team a little bit more than you usually do. Just during the holiday season, get them through the holiday season because everybody needs something.
Yeah, you keep that eye out watch your team and see any changes in their demeanors, behaviors, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Can be who knows what kinds of memories people have as well. Yeah, sometimes this can be a traumatic time of year, so you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Just keep an eye on your
Might be
team.
going through some extra shit that you're not used to.
Right.
So,
Real quick, I did find that little stat I was talking about holiday parties. So it said an online survey of 1,067 people found that office Christmas parties did little to relieve the stress. 2/5 of respondents, about 37%, did not want to go to their work celebrations because they wanted to keep their work and family life separate or the date clashed with something at home. And then 18% didn't even have a work party to go to. But so yeah, 37% of people don't even want to go to their holiday parties for work because of other things going on in their lives. That's a pretty big chunk of people.
so now, when you say holiday party, does that mean like something separate outside of the work, like outside of your day at work? Like, hey, we're all gonna get together.
It doesn't say, but based on the wording, the verbiage that they used, saying the date clashed with something at home would tell me that it was after hours.
So, with that being said, if you can swing it, do something at work. Don't add something outside of the workday. If you can swing it.
Be careful with that because depending on the level of party you're able to throw because of a time constraint possibly at work, it may come off as cheap. You as an employer may look like, oh wow, this is all you can do for us.
And I get
So
that.
be very conscious of that as well. Especially if in the past you've done other more extravagant things and then all of a sudden you
Which is
pull it
where
back.
You set a standard.
Right.
I mean, you have to
Right.
play that. But maybe
Just wanted to make that comment, something to be conscious of that will that will affect morale if you pull some shit like that and all of a sudden downgrade. They're going to say, "Oh, okay, we see how this is now."
But that in a company, the company itself should be open to feedback from their employees.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you should know if it's too much for the company, if it's not fun for anybody, if people enjoy those big kind of celebrations, or hey, would people be open to something smaller? Run the idea by people. But we've always done, like I said, just a lunch potluck. And it's worked out because it's like the Friday before Christmas or the day before the holiday, whenever we're going to have time off. We have a lunch brought in, lunch catered. So everybody goes to lunch at the same time, maybe 10, 15 minutes earlier. Hang out for lunch, eat your lunch, and you can go back to work. Or some people just take that, and once lunch is done, they go home for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been nice because it's no.
That's what we do
take
too.
any extra time off of anybody's schedule. You're already there for work. I don't have to get lunch now because lunch is being brought in. So it's all kind of just made things easy.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's appreciated because work's paying for everybody to have lunch. We get a nice catered meal. We can all hang out for a little bit, and then you can go back to work if you want to, or you can go home.
Right.
And that's always been a good incentive, a good way to do the holiday party, I guess. So if you can swing it and don't create an extra event outside of the obligated time you're supposed to be at work anyways, maybe that's what you need to do.
Right.
But I guess you run that on feedback or the amount of people that actually show up to the events.
Yep.
You have a big company and you have a big event and 25% of the people show up, you should probably look at what you're doing. Where were we?
Talking about the holiday parties, you were mentioning the 25% if 25% of your workforce isn't showing up, you should probably look at
reevaluate.
Right.
If you're doing a big outside event and people aren't showing up.
Apologies for that. There was a minor mic malfunction, so audio for the first part of this might be a little wonky, but it's fixed now and we'll be good moving forward.
We're limping along.
We're new at this or something like that. Sorry about that, guys, but we are back to regular now.
Technical difficulties.
All right. So another stat I found, there's also a hangover effect from these Christmas parties and all this time off. So much so that 62% of companies reported dips in productivity post-holiday. So that's even more of an effect after than before. They said 78% of employees even admitted to shopping online during work hours into the build-up to Christmas looking for gifts. So 78% of people are spending some of their time in the lead up to Christmas looking for Christmas presents.
1,000% believe that.
Guilty?
I am going to go on a limb and say that 78%, you said? That's a low number.
At this point, I would probably say you're right.
There's a lot of people lying on that.
Yeah, it said research shows that, in fact, productivity is lower for the whole month of December as well as January.
Dude, I shop when I'm pooping.
Yeah, so there's quite a few stats talking about just how much the holiday season does, in fact, affect the workforce. I felt it.
And yeah, it's...
Talked about a couple of ways to combat it. Do we have anything else?
It definitely has an impact on motivation, on just people's morale and everything. So what do we cover? Covered
making sure to communicate any changes in the raise or bonus structure as early as possible.
If you don't already, find some way to have incentives. We do bonuses, we do raises, whatever.
Other incentives we talked about were...
Reviews might not be the best time of the year during the holidays in case you have to give a bad review. Holiday season's probably not the time to do that. So maybe reviews are not a good example of the...
I've never had a review given over the holidays. It's typically a month or so after.
Post-holiday would be ideal, but prior to the holidays, just be aware of what actions you take and how they're going to have an effect on the morale.
Correct.
Um,
Other incentives we talked about were, I had mentioned like some kind of pizza party or tight food incentive,
some sort
based
of
on
an
production goals or whatever, or just as a thank you for your team moving around so much during this time. If you are in fact have that many more people off or whatever it is, if your team's got to be flexible, you can be also.
Find a way to show your appreciation, show that you're not taking their sacrifice lightly.
Yeah.
Because everybody's making a sacrifice by being there to do the job.
Right.
People are making a sacrifice, especially during the holiday season. Touch base with your team a little bit more. Make sure everybody's good. Make sure people are staying motivated and find ways to motivate your team just to keep the morale up.
Yeah, as we mentioned, this could potentially be or have been a traumatic time in somebody's life, so maybe they're a little more down than usual, and you can talk to them a little bit more and just help try to cheer them up. So yeah, like you said, check on your team, keep an eye on their patterns and behavior, and see how they're doing.
Find ways to increase Christmas spirit, if that's gift giving events or
another incentive we talked about was the
decorate
underline optional gift giving opportunity, whether that be a Secret Santa or white elephant, something like that.
If you're into decorating your workplace, I know our shop's been doing something recently where they just started doing like wear a holiday shirt, wear a Hawaiian shirt on Fridays
Christmas
or whatever.
Sweaters and stuff like that too.
Yeah, maybe just an ugly Christmas sweater party or something. Just anything to raise morale, raise spirits, get people in that holiday Christmas spirit. Even if you're a Grinch, like I've been called many times, but just don't play Christmas music around me because that's bound to put me in the wrong.
Well, some stations have already been playing it for a month and a half.
But I think that pretty much covers it.
I have one more interesting thing I found while I was doing some research. So I called it the Christmas or the holiday effect when we first started. Another thing that popped up under Christmas effect. So the high number of conceptions occurring during the December holidays between Thanksgiving and New Year's, resulting in a peak in the number of births during September, that ends up resulting in a peak of births around September, October, whatever, in most of the world where Christmas and Thanksgiving are celebrated. So that can also later on lead to a downturn in your productivity of your workforce, depending on how many people have to take time off for childbirth. I just found that an interesting fact. They see a uptick in pregnancy during this time.
That is interesting. I wonder how much of that has to do with holidays and how much of that has to do with the what's the word I'm looking for? Not season. Like the area you're in based on like if you have a hard
geographic
winter,
location.
Yes. You're based on your geographic location, how much that changes.
Well, no, this time of year
versus the holidays
isn't the harshest in many places. You're getting January, February where it's going to be the harshest of the season. So you would think if that was the case,
that's true.
It would be a couple months later.
You'd see some more, October, November births.
And it may partially play into it. People start transitioning from being outdoors a little more to being indoors. So maybe there is something with that. I would think it would have more of a.
How many more people had kids during COVID when everybody was
locked down and
you had nothing
to do? Hey, you wanna? Yeah, why not? Got to do something to get some activity going. Can't do anything but to leave the house. So.
Hey, babe, you bored?
Oh.
Well, that is interesting, but I could absolutely see that. Spend a little bit more intimate time with your loved ones around the holidays. And
I guess I also found it a little odd just because you are with extended family more, and so you have less time. But maybe for some reason, I don't know. I then didn't do any more looking into it.
That's
I just stumbled
interesting.
across that and thought it was interesting that, yep, a little more pregnancies during this time, which then leads to more childbirths in September. So there you see another downtick in possibly production just because people are out.
And stressed of raising kids.
Yeah.
Babies,
Oh, the
newborns.
cycle of life, isn't it grand? Does that wrap this topic up?
I think that wraps up managing a team during the
Pre-Christmas
holiday
edition.
season.
Just gave some ideas of what you can do to help keep that morale and productivity up during the holiday season, and hopefully you can find something that'll help.
Yeah, with that,
Watch social media. We are at J2B Podcast on Twitter, Just Two Brothers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. We've got all kinds of content related to our episodes each week, so make sure to be following us and get all our little updates. With that,
thanks for listening.